The Paycheck Protection Round 2 is opening for everyone very soon, like within a few days, possibly even tomorrow as of the recording of this. And I made a comprehensive video on how exactly to go through the application process and what documents you need for the PPP Round 2. And I noticed in the comments of that video, over 100,000 of you have watched this and I think benefited from it in a huge way. However, I noticed that there was a reoccurring theme of many questions that weren't quite answered or tailored to specific situations. Specifically, a lot of people were trying to figure out how to apply for the first round of PPP funding if they haven't yet received the second round. So because of the overwhelming response and questions of this, I decided I'm going to make a video just to clear up all the confusion here. What to do if you haven't yet applied for the first round of PPP, what to do if you're still looking for the second round of PPP, which, like I said, is coming very soon. So let's just clear the air here. I'm going to first cover the Paycheck Protection Round 1 guidelines, what you need to know for it, how to apply. Then we're going to go through the application process. Then I'm going to cover the PPP Round 2 guidelines, everything you need to know, the application process, and then we're going to cover the documents that you need. Now, some of this might be repetitive. This is going to be a pretty long video, so I'm going to try and timestamp this down in the comments so you can skip around to whatever is applicable to you. But if you wouldn't mind, because it's going to be so long and certain sections will only apply to certain people, just let the video run and YouTube will appreciate the watch time of this video. That way I can get a little thanks for spending my time on this. And if you wouldn't mind also hitting the like button and subscribing if by the end you picked up any value from this video whatsoever. So starting with the PPP Round 1 guidelines. Now these have actually changed a little bit as of recently. As of the second round came out, the SBA changed the PPP 1 guidelines a little bit. So first guidelines. This loan, it's a forgivable loan, just like the round 2, can be used for, number 1, payroll costs. That's what it's built for, Paycheck Protection Program. This includes wages, commissions, tips, vacation, leave pay, health benefits, any amount of pay to employees or to yourself if you're self-employed, not in excess of $100,000 per year. This is a question I received a ton of times. What if you make $150,000 a year? That doesn't matter. You're just going to use $100,000. That's the maximum they'll pay per person. Doesn't matter if you own your own business. $100,000. Also included in the PPP 1, as far as expenses you can spend this money on, are mortgage interest, rent payments, utility payments, worker protection costs related to COVID-19. This was recently updated. Uninsured property damage caused by looting or vandalism during 2020. So that was also applied to the first round if you haven't applied for that yet. And also changed after the second round came out is the added certain supplier costs for expenses of operations. And this can include any business software or cloud computing service that's necessary for business operations and certain supplies purchased from suppliers. Now, in order to receive full forgiveness for the first round, if the borrower, which is you, during the 8 to 24 week covered period of this loan, you get to decide what your covered period is, must maintain employee levels and employee compensation levels and reduce them by no more than 25%. Otherwise, that will start taking away from your forgiveness level. If you're self-employed, obviously this won't apply to you because you'll just pay yourself the maximum amount. You must also spend the loan proceeds on applicable expenses. So at least 60% of the proceeds must go towards payroll and the remaining 40% to those other things that I just mentioned. Now, who can apply for the first round? This is any entity with fewer than 500 employees, and this includes nonprofits, veterans organizations, tribal concerns, self-employed individuals, contractors, sole proprietors. Anyone who owns some kind of business or service can apply for the first round. If you haven't yet applied for the first round, you can get that first round. Once that's used up, then you'll still be able to get the second round. So don't worry, you won't be missing out on that. Now, when can you apply for the first round? Well, this has been open, and you can apply for this first round anytime between now and March 31st of 2021. So you'll want to apply for this as soon as possible so you can get that funding, use it, and then get the second round of funding. Now you can apply through any existing SBA 7A lender. If you're just looking for one, Google SBA lenders and you will find an existing lender that you can go through. There's also some fintechs that you can use, or you can use a bank that I've been personally connected with recently, which is called Womply, and I'll have them linked in the description as well. And they've been doing a really good job of making sure people are notified when this round opens up, and then you'll be able to get your slice of funding as soon as possible. Okay, so going on to the application now. The applications are a little bit different between the first round and the second round. So let's make the distinction here. I want this to be like a comprehensive, everything you need to know video about round 1 and round 2. So getting into this first application, bear with me for a second here. This is my first time using a live switcher. So if I make any mistakes, let's go over to the application, throw me on here. So we got the basic business information on the top. This doesn't change from application to application, but let's go through it anyways. You want to choose the type of business you have. I own an LLC, so I checked LLC here. If you're a contractor, you're going to do independent contractor. If you're a sole proprietor, you check that. Tax-wise, that's not going to make a big difference if you don't know which one you are. That won't really change much. So choose your entity type. If you have a DBA or trade name, you'll want to put that there. If you have a business legal name, you'll put this here. If you are a sole proprietor or contractor, this is likely just your name. Your business address, if you're an independent contractor, this will likely just be your address unless you have a business location. Your business EIN, TIN, or social security number. Again, if you're sole proprietor, independent contractor, that'll likely be your social security number. If you own a small business with employees, that'll likely be EIN. That's not for everyone. You likely know the answer to that. Business phone, contact, email address. Now we get to average monthly payroll. Now, if you own a small business, this is your payroll receipts on average for 2019. Now remember, this is for the first application. So for 2019, you take your total gross payroll, all payroll expenses, including sick pay, things like that. You'll divide that by 12. You put that in here, average monthly payroll. We're just going to do 10,000. Now in this next box, you need to multiply it by 2.5 plus the EIDL grant if you got it. However, as of now, the EIDL grant doesn't count against this loan. So because of that, I wouldn't count the EIDL grant. I would just go whatever the PPP loan amount would be. This is because the recent tax change, it doesn't count against forgiveness, which is amazing for small business owners. Your number of employees, we're just going to say 10. Now you need to mark what you plan to use this loan on. Likely it's going to be all of these because you want to get that 60, 40%, or if you're an independent contractor, it probably will just be 100% payroll because it's based on your payroll. Oh yeah, and circling back to this, if you're a contractor or sole proprietor, you're going to take your net earnings on your, so it's line 31 on your Schedule C, your net earnings for 2019, divide that by 12, put that in this box, multiply by 2.5. Now, scrolling down a little bit, hopefully you could see that. There's that a little longer if you need to see it. Scrolling down a little bit, this is the ownership information. So this is just every single owner who owns at least 20% of the entity. You'll put in their name, title, ownership, their social security number, and their address. Pretty self-explanatory there. Now we have a whole bunch of check boxes. Let's run through these. Is the applicant or any owner of the applicant presently suspended, debarred, proposed for debarment, declared ineligible, voluntarily excluded from participation in this transaction by any federal department or agency, or presently involved in bankruptcy? We're going to say no on that. Has the applicant or any owner of the applicant or any business owned or controlled by any of them ever obtained a direct guaranteed loan from the SBA or any federal agency that has been defaulted on in the last 7 years? That's likely a no. Is the applicant or any owner of the applicant, do they have common management with any other business? This might be yes for you if you have like 50% ownership of 2 different businesses and you want to apply for both. We're going to say no on this. Has the applicant received an SBA economic injury disaster loan? So yes or no. I didn't receive the loan. Now, is the applicant, or if it's an individual, the individual owning more than 20% of the entity, of the equity of the applicant, presently incarcerated for any felony or presently subject to an indictment, criminal information, arraignment, or by any means which formal criminal charges have brought in by any jurisdiction? So probably no. We're going to initial that. Number 6, within the last 5 years, for any felony involving fraud, bribery, embezzlement, or a false statement in a loan application or an application for federal financial assistance, or within the last year, for any other felony, has the applicant or individual or any owner of the applicant been convicted, pleaded guilty, pleaded nolo contender, or commenced any form of parole, probation, and likely no here. Is the United States the principal residence for all employees of the applicant included in the payroll calculation above? It's likely yes. Is the applicant a franchise that's listed in the SBA's franchise directory? We're going to say no on that. You'll know if you were. Now we just have a few more check boxes here. This is just basically certifying the basics for the loan. The applicant was in operation on February 15th, 2020 and had employees for whom it paid salaries. Now, this is a question that I've received a ton of times. What if you started your business in March of 2020? For the first loan, not applicable. For the second loan, not applicable. But if you did any work in a period before that, it's applicable. It might be really small if you just started right before that, but you may be able to get some kind of small loan. Now, you want to certify current economic uncertainty makes this loan request necessary to support the ongoing operations. That's not something that you need to prove, but you just are certifying these things. Next, the funds will be used to retain workers and maintain payroll or make mortgage interest payments. Any of the applicable payments, you want to certify that. The applicant will provide to the lender documentation verifying the number of full-time equivalent employees on the payroll, as well as the dollar amounts for payroll costs, for mortgage payments, for covered rent payments, for covered utilities. This might not be the case if you have a small loan. There's word of not needing to certify that after, but don't apply for a higher amount than you can prove just in case you need to certify that. And also, we want to make sure this funding can go to as many people as possible. So don't be a jerk and just, get your slice that you deserve. Let's see here. I understand that loan forgiveness will be provided for the sum of documented payroll costs, covered mortgage interest payments, covered rent payments, and covered utilities, and not more than 40% of the forgivable amount will be for non-payroll costs. We know that. During the period on February 15th, 2020 and ending December 31st, 2020, the applicant has not and will not receive another loan under the Paycheck Protection Program. We got to certify that. That one's a little bit funny because now there's a second round, but we're beyond this day, so that's weird. Even though this application was just updated like 10 days ago, so they obviously missed that. Now you're just certifying that all the information is accurate and correct, and that your lender may authorize the information afterwards. And you just need to sign it, print it, date it, put your title on there. All right. So that is really it for the first round. Now we have the second round of funding. And there's completely different guidelines for that. Well, a lot of it is similar, but they are different. And also, I'll have the link to the first application linked in the description below. So you can click that. For whatever reason, now it's really hard to find this link. So I'll have it listed as PPP Application 1. You can use that link. And again, if you're looking for a lender, that will also be linked in the description, the one that I've been personally working with. All right, moving on to Paycheck Protection Round 2 guidelines. So the same general loan terms as the first round, especially now that they changed the first round a little bit to kind of mimic the second round, but it can be used on payroll costs. That includes all types of payroll costs, vacation pay, sick pay, everything like that, up to $100,000 per employee. Same goes if you're self-employed. It's the same as the first round. Now, mortgage interest, that's also included, rent payments, utility payments, worker protection costs related to COVID-19, that's the same as the first round, uninsured property damage costs caused by looting or vandalism during 2020. It has to be property damage caused that wasn't covered by anything. That's going to apply to very few people. And then certain supplier costs and expenses for operations. Those ones are the most vague on this group. They're saying this is like online software, computer software, and supplies purchased from suppliers. What exactly that means? It's kind of hard to tell exactly. And if we're even going to need to certify, if you spent this on your supplies or however that works. But that's an added item. So I guess it just makes it a little bit easier for us to have a little more flexibility here. Now, second draw eligibility, that changed a little bit from the first time around. You have to certify that you have used or will use the first round of funding. On the application, it just says that you have used it, but on the SBA's guidance worksheet, it says that you plan to use it. I haven't heard of any word of needing to certify this. It's kind of weird. Like, what if you got a $10,000 PPP loan and you have $40,000 in your business bank account? How do you certify if those specific funds were used or not? I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of question there. You can't have any more than 300 employees on this round, and you have to show a reduction in same quarter revenue from 2019 to 2020. So like quarter one, you need to show a reduction from 2019 to 2020 of more than 25%, or quarter two, three, whichever your worst quarter was, you'll compare those two. And for loans under $150,000, you won't actually need to certify that until you are applying for loan forgiveness. Loans above $150,000, you'll need to certify that you showed that 25% reduction in sales before you get the loan. So this is one that, if you want to be completely sure that you get loan forgiveness and you're right around that 25% mark, confirm with your lender before accepting the funds if you're worried about the forgiveness end, because they will give you that loan if it's under $150,000 without this proof. So if you're right on the edge there, confirm with your lender. I would say apply and then confirm with the lender that that's going to work. And then the loan amount, for most people, it's going to be the same as the first time around, where you take average monthly payroll or average monthly net earnings from either 2019 or 2020, whatever is higher, and multiply that by 2.5. But you can multiply by 3.5 if your NAICS code is 72, which covers like most hospitality businesses, restaurants, any accommodation, food service sector, anyone providing meals, lodging, snacks, or beverages for immediate use will likely be the code 72, and you can use that 3.5 multiplier, which is huge for those businesses who have been really hit hard by this. And like I said, you can use 2019 numbers or 2020, whatever benefits you the most, you use those numbers. Now, when can you apply for this one? And the answer is between now and, again, March 31st, 2021. I expect to see that deadline for the PPP2 to extend beyond March 31. I hope to see like a bunch of funding sitting there, not yet used, and then it gets extended a few months, just to make sure that people who are just now getting the first round can also get the second round in time. But as of right now, it's March 31st, 2020. And again, you can apply through any existing SBA 7A lender. Google that, Google SBA lender, and any of them should allow the Paycheck Protection Program. If you need one that I recommend, check out the link in the description for Womply. I've been working with them for the last few weeks. I plan on doing my PPP Round 2 loan through them, and I know a ton of you have had a good experience so far with them. So I've been really happy with the process so far. All right, now let's go into the Round 2 application. Let me pull this up, make it full screen here. All right, we're going to switch this over. Throw me on there. Now the top, like I said, is pretty much the exact same as the top of the other application. Check your entity type, DBA or trade name, year of establishment, business legal name. Again, this will be your name, likely if you're an independent contractor or sole proprietor. NAICS code. If you need to find this, a really easy way to do it is just Google whatever your industry is and NAICS code. I did that for my business because I didn't know what it was offhand. Now you just need to certify here. You have, if the applicant, including affiliates applicable, meets the standard size, check 1. Your likely SBA industry size standards here. But any one of those, you're just supposed to check 1. I don't think it'll matter which one you check. And this is actually a brand new addition on the application. Even after I made that first video on the updated application, they're updating this like all the time. So business address, business TIN, EIN, social security number, whatever one applies to you, you should know. Whichever one is on your tax documents, that's the one you use. Business phone number, primary contact, email address. All right, this is where it changes a little bit. Average monthly payroll, again, just to explain this, you can take your 2019 or 2020 payroll, whichever is higher, for the entire year, including employee benefits, vacation pay, things like that. You'll take that whole year's amount, divide it by 12, and that's what you put in your average monthly payroll. For seasonal businesses, it's a little bit different. You pick a period. I'm not going to go too into detail here, but you pick a period that benefits you most, and you use that as your average monthly payroll, and you'll throw that in here. So we're just going to go with $10,000 again. Now we do the 2.5 multiplier. It says plus EIDL here. See, this one's updated though. It says do not include any EIDL advance. So you can use the 2.5 multiplier. If you're the NAI CS code 72, you're going to do a 3.5 multiplier. But for this case, we're going to do 2.5. Now for employees, we're just going to say 10. Now you need to select all of the expenses that apply to you, which are likely most of them: rent and mortgage, interest, utilities. And I wouldn't worry if you check one that you don't end up spending it on. It's not going to be a big deal. I don't think many people are going to have covered property damage. I know I won't. Covered supplier costs, covered worker protection expenditures. Other, I personally wouldn't check that unless you're pretty confident in what the other is. Now we got the ownership information. This is the exact same as the first time around. List all the owners of 20% or more. Throw that in there. If it's just you, you'll just put 100%. Now these checkboxes have changed a little bit from the first round, so I'll go over them just for the sake of really going in depth and making sure you have the answer to everything you need to know. All right, are you presently debarred or ineligible from any transaction with the federal agency? No. Oh, they got checkboxes on this one. I forgot. It's 2021. The SBA is just on future status. Has the applicant or any owner of the applicant defaulted on a federal agency loan within the last 7 years? No. Has the applicant or any owner of the applicant, do you have common management with another business? This might be yes for you. Like I said earlier, maybe you have a 50-50 ownership with another person on multiple businesses. This might be yes for you. That doesn't mean you're not going to get the loan if you certify yes on that. We're going to say no here. You can see up here, if that drop down goes away. Come on. On the top there, it says if questions 1, 2, 5, or 6 are answered yes, you will not be approved. So the rest of them you don't really have to worry about. Did the applicant receive an SBA economic injury disaster loan? If yes, provide yes. Oh wait, I didn't get the loan, I got the advance. Is the applicant, number 5, yeah, you can see that. Is the applicant, if an individual or any individual owning 20% or more of the equity of the applicant presently incarcerated for any felony subject to indictment? Chances are that's no. You'll want to initial that. Within the last 5 years for any felony involving fraud, bribery, embezzlement, or a false statement on the loan application. So have you falsified federal loan applications within the last 5 years? I made a joke of this last time. 6 years, you're good to go. They'll give you another loan. 5 years, All right, that's a no. Is the United States the principal place of residence for all the employees within the calculation? Yes. Is it a franchise? You'll know, but likely yes or no. Is the franchise listed in the SBA's franchise directory? If yes, you have to put the code there. We just got no. All right, now we just have a few more certifications here. They added to the certifications, but most of them are pretty self-explanatory. There's only a few here that are confusing. Were you in operation on February 15th, 2020 or before, and you haven't permanently closed? You can't get this loan if your business has permanently closed. And again, that was a question I've been asked many times. What if you started the business this year? Unless it's on or before February 15th, you won't be able to get this loan. The current market conditions and uncertainty make it required for you to get this loan. The funds are going to be used to spend on the applicable payments for things like mortgage interest, payroll, things we've already covered. You understand that loan forgiveness will be provided if you spend it on the right things and potentially with documentation. You won't receive a second PPP loan, a second PPP loan, I should say. So you're just certifying, I'm not going to get a second draw twice, but we might actually see a third draw. There's been recent talk of more small business relief coming out in the next month or two. So we actually might see a third draw or some other kind of small business relief, which would be crazy and pretty exciting. So I'll keep you updated if that happens. Make sure you're subscribed so you can stay updated for that. Now, the applicant has not and will not receive a shuttered venue operator grant from the SBA. You don't have any close ties with any high-up politicians. That's what this one is saying. The applicant is not an issuer of the securities, the application is not an issuer, the securities of which are listed on a securities exchange. So basically you're not a public company. Certify that. And then you just are certifying that all the remaining information is accurate and it may be checked upon by whoever your lender is. If your loan is under $150,000, chances are the process is going to be pretty smooth. The bigger the loan gets, the more scrutiny you're going to have to go through to get forgiveness and to get the loan in the first place. So let's move on from here. Let's switch this back to me. All right, I'm getting the hang of this thing. Okay, now from here, documents that you need for PPP Round 2. Or also Round 1, you'll need these same documents. Okay, let's see here. So you can see what I'm looking at. I made a nice little list that we can follow along with. I know it's easier if there's something up on the screen. So the completed PPP application form, you're going to need that. This is what it needs to include: your name, all the owners' names who own more than 20%, your business type. You basically just need to follow the instructions. You also need to show your average monthly payroll costs. If you fill out the application properly, you're going to have that information on there. You need to show proof of payroll or self-income, and you can use one of these documents to do so. IRS Form 940 for 2019 or 2020. This is for Round 2. For Round 1, it'll be 2019 for all of these. IRS Form 941 for all quarters. IRS Form 944 or payroll processor records. That's if you own a business with employees. Now, if you're in a partnership, you can see that if you're in a partnership without employees, you're going to need a 2019. This should say or 2020 or 2020 Schedule K. If you show no profit on line 14A of that Schedule K, you will not qualify for a PPP loan for either of them. If you're self-employed or independent contractor, you're going to need a 2019 or 2020 1040 Schedule C. Again, if you show no profit on line 31, you will not be able to get this PPP loan for either of them. I know that's been a big issue for a lot of you as well. Unfortunately, there's really no way around that. You're going to need to show proof of ownership. So ownership of the business and each owner's name, social security number. So you need the owner's name, social security number, and one other document for proof of ownership. That could be articles of incorporation, 1040, Schedule C, W-9 form, something that has your name attached to the business and your ownership. Government ID for all the owners of over 20%. Banking information for your business. Why does this go from 6 to 9? If you have a business entity, you're going to need a certificate of good standing with your Secretary of State. You don't need this if you're an independent contractor or sole proprietor. And if you need it, chances are you can just Google your state name followed by certificate of good standing, and you'll be able to download this online. So really, I think, let me just switch over to me. I think that's going to do it. That's everything you need to know comparing first draw to second draw. So quickly, in summary, if you're looking for the first draw, you can do so through an SBA lender. You can use that first application. It's linked in the description. If you need a lender, use my link in the description. You can still get the second draw loan after the first one. There should be enough time for you to get both. For the second round, oh, and also if you use my link for Womply, it will say second draw, but if you fill out the information and then let them know you're just going for first draw, they will apply you through first draw. Or again, you can do your research and use whichever lender you want. It's very similar across the board. Second loan, you'll use that second loan application. This opens very, very soon for minority-owned businesses and minority institutions. This is actually open already. For everyone else, we're looking at an opening sometime either tomorrow or the day after that. So very soon, and I'll let you know as soon as this is open, because obviously I'm very concerned about getting you the funding that you so deserve. So really, that's it. Feel free to click around on this video. Feel free to pull it up when you're filling out the application. That way, you know everything you need to know, and you can do this properly. If there's anything I didn't address, feel free to comment below. I'm actually working on doing a live stream with a high up rep from the Paycheck Protection Program through the SBA, like one of the top PPP guys at the SBA. So we can do a live stream and answer your questions live. I'm working on that. I'm hoping that will happen. So if you just enjoyed this video, again, remember to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and that's about it. I would like to thank you for watching, and I hope you have a profitable day.